It was around, what was it, 5, 6 years ago when Cameron Bertuzzi was starting his Capturing Christianity Apologetics channel. I was one of the people early on that he reached out to interview and have conversations with. So from that point on, I had an eye on his channel, really appreciated his content. Well, for a couple of reasons, I'm less engaged in apologetics these days. I had a career change a couple of years ago, moving into full-time workplace investigations rather than being a professor of apologetics and theology and worldview. And for that reason alone, I just engaged less with that material. But I also, in the last few years, found myself less engaged, particularly with Cameron's channel, because it was, well, the content increasingly focused on Catholicism was of less interest to me, but also the more sensationalist stuff, the focus on politics and right-wing politics and clickbaity stuff. Well, this morning I saw a post from Cameron and I said, "Oh, I have to watch this." So here it is. So the thumbnail image is of Cameron holding a sign where he says, "Bye." Well, that'll get your attention. And then the title of the video is simply, "I'm leaving." This sounds pretty earth-shaking, right? So, for the first time in a couple months, I watched a Cameron Bertuzzi video. The first 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes of the video, he talks about how much he loves being a Catholic, um, and it's really reignited his passion for Christianity and for the channel. And I kept wondering, okay, but where's the "bye, I'm leaving" stuff? And then the last 30 seconds, minute, whatever it was, he announces that he's decided to take a short break. And so he's going to go on vacation for 2 weeks. So the 2 week vacation that he's taking in mid-March is what he meant by "bye" and "I'm leaving." Remember the days when people used to rickroll you? You'd think you were going to be watching something and you clicked it on, and instead it was like Rick Astley going, "Never gonna give you up." It's kind of a bait and switch, right? Classic bait and switch. Well, clickbait is another classic bait and switch. It's where you post some provocative but ultimately misleading or deceptive title or ad. You clicked on it and you realize, in fact, that the actual content is nothing like that. And what's really important about clickbait is that effective clickbait is such that, in retrospect, had you known what the actual content was, you would not have bothered to click on and watch or engage with that link or that content. And this is a classic example. If I had known that all this video was Cameron talking for a few minutes about how he likes being a Catholic and then announcing he's going on a 2 week vacation, I would never have clicked it on. He clearly misled people. He deceived people into thinking, deceived me into thinking he was, in fact, having some major shift and was leaving Capturing Christianity altogether, which I certainly would be interested to hear more about. Now, you could say, well, clickbait is all over the place, so it's not a big deal. It is all over the place. That doesn't mean it's not a big deal. The irony here is that you have a Christian apologist who purports to greatly value truth and the propagation and proclamation of truth faithfully, who is deceptively misleading people. I don't think there's any other way to charitably put it, by misleading people into reasonably inferring that he's concluding or finishing his channel or has some other major significant life event that he's announcing, but who is in fact simply going on vacation for 2 weeks. And what happens is this: apologetics, if it's going to be successful at all, is only going to be successful because of the credibility of the apologist. In other words, the fact that people think this is somebody they can trust, who is going to be a reliable purveyor of what they believe to be true. Once you lose credibility from your audience, then you will no longer be an effective apologist, even if your arguments are good. As I always like to put it, in apologetics, as in communication generally, credibility is the key to the realm. If you want to effectively persuade people, win people over to whatever your point of view is on any matter, the first thing you have to have is credibility. Otherwise, they won't listen to you. And when you engage in openly deceptive clickbait, not just stuff that's maybe playing a little bit with expectation, but kind of fudging a little bit, but openly misleading people, That may get you a click. It may win the battle, but it loses the war. It's counterproductive. It's cutting off your nose to spite your face if you really care about the credibility of your witness and your presentation. So think that this is just unfortunate. Now, am I always perfect in how I communicate? Is there ever anything that's clickbaity in anything I posted? Man, there may very well be. I never said I was perfect, but this one was pretty striking. Say I'm leaving, and they say, actually, I'm leaving on a 2 week vacation. Those are very different things. So I think to conclude, we always need to think that you lose an audience or you lose credibility with an audience often by the metaphorical death of a thousand cuts, right? It's these slow, small ways that you gradually erode your credibility often that can marginalize your witness, whether you are an apologist for Christianity or for anything else. It is contrary to effective communication, and ultimately it is a breach of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if you would not appreciate it, if somebody else tricked you, misled you with a clearly misleading statement, into engaging with their content for 5 minutes, not a huge deal, but it is something that you would not appreciate, then don't do it to others. So it really is as simple as that. Don't violate the golden rule and don't erode your long-term credibility for short-term gain.